Welcome back to Three Ball Walk. This week we're going to touch on something that's near and dear to me, and I'm wearing my Global Baseball shirt, a ministry we have where we've been blessed to be able to use baseball to get into some countries that don't allow access. You
went to Cuba one time.
I've been to Cuba 4 times with Global Baseball.
Wow.
Global Baseball's probably been there 20 times in the last since 2001, and building churches, giving people baseball equipment, medical needs, all kinds of things, and this is basically just to share the gospel and to be, creating opportunities to get people together. But we're building churches and taking equipment, and it's a lot of fun, and it's something that's near and dear to me. When I was in baseball, watching players and their charities and the bonuses for every home run, $15,000 gets given to RBI or different things like that. But baseball players and baseball lovers, baseball aficionados, are doing lots of things to help the community. And Eddie,
Yeah, one of the things I think is, I looked up today, is Major League Baseball has given $65 million since 97 to the Boys and Girls Club. Wow. The Boys and Girls Club is one of the official charities of Major League Baseball. So just overall, MLB has given that amount. And MLB and their teams have generated, which is kind of an interesting way of phrasing it. So you don't know how much they gave and how much they collected, but $40 million for Stand Up to Cancer. So Major League Baseball overall has certain charities that they work with, and then the clubs have charities too, right?
I'll tell you what, and cancer is something. I lost my mom, and it doesn't play fair, and I hate it. And every year during the World Series, and I don't know if it's game 2 or 3, when they do the Stand Up to Cancer, and everyone stands there, and every player along. I mean, I'm like I am now. I don't think a year goes by in the last 8 or 10 World Series when they've done it where I don't sit there and just start crying watching it.
It's hard. It's hard. It's a great effort for Major League Baseball to do. I know I looked up the Rays and what they contribute, because I figured Bob looked up the Braves.
I didn't.
Oh, let's see. I guess doesn't even care about the Braves anymore.
I care about them. I care. Tim Hudson has a charity, which we'll talk about. But
do we have the camera? Can you see that right there? Marlins. I looked up the Marlins.
You looked up the Marlins. I figured that. So,
you had the Rays.
The Rays.
What are the Rays doing in Florida?
Well, they teamed up with several organizations to do a Be Smart in the Water, to talk about water safety issues, which makes sense living in Florida. So many people have swimming pools around the ocean, lakes. They do a reading program with the libraries as a part of that, and I think it's Sun Trust that does that as well as a sponsor. So they send players out to read with kids during the summer. They reward them if they read a certain number of books, including getting a ticket to the Rays game. Then they also have a South St. Pete neighborhood initiative where they're trying to help the area right around the Trop. And if you've ever been there, you know that area definitely needs some help. Also, they have a right field program where they bring right, as in W-R-I-T-E. They bring in middle schoolers, especially young men who are struggling to finish school, and so they bring them in there to help them to be able to learn to write better in hopes that they'll finish their education and graduate. The front office does something which is kind of neat. The front office is involved with an elementary school and mentoring program. Just the front office personnel, not the players, which is kind of interesting. And then they also have the Home Run Club for foster kids, that they bring in foster families and allow them to have a suite, and they bring them into the games and let them be there. So that's kind of some of the things that the Rays do with their foundation.
And then Major League Baseball, which the Rays are involved, the Marlins are involved, is the RBI program, and the Braves, the RBI
program is amazing, and not just the number of people that it helps, but the number of players who come out of the RBI program. Justin Upton, Manny Machado, CC Sabathia are all guys who've benefited from that program. And we think sometimes about baseball, you think about the players or the teams, and I sometimes forget about what a program like RBI contributes to the community at large. I mean,
it's basically an inner city little league.
Right.
Is basically, and each team they have the league and whatever, they form the all-star team, and then you play. Last year the RBI World Series was actually won by the Marlins. The Marlins team beat a team from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania that either they're one of the Pirates teams or one of the Phillies teams, but an RBI program there. So they get baseball, and like you said, they turn out and everything like that. But something interesting, every year each team gives out a scholarship to college, and then every year RBI nationally gives out. And this I found rather interesting, us being here in Gainesville. I had a list of the National RBI $20,000 scholarships that have been given out. And, you know, Craig Campbell last year, St. Thomas University down in Miami. But currently, the 2015, the 2014, the 2012, and the 2011 RBI National Scholarship winners, $20,000, are here at the University of Florida.
Wow, I wonder if they're playing on the club baseball team.
I'm sure
We can check that out.
It would be really
What's
interesting.
really cool from the RBI program too, this year and next year, they're going to have the World Series played in Cincinnati, and some of the games are being played at the. I spiked on the ballpark's name in Cincinnati, but they're going to be at the Red Stadium.
The Reds ballpark,
Reds
whatever company
Great
pays
American
for the
Ballpark.
rights.
It's not Riverfront.
Great American
No,
Ballpark.
Riverfront's
Great American.
Great American.
And Mark Whitten, who was a Major League Baseball player, he's going to coach the 13.
4 home runs in a game.
4 home runs in a game. He's going to coach the 13 All-Star team, I guess.
That's
there. So you got guys who are giving back to the program, you know, as well. I think any charity, I think, like with Tampa Bay, Miami, Atlanta, sorry, and that gives back to the community. We sometimes that's not always broadcast. It's not always publicized as much because teams don't.
Well, you look at, and well, it's interesting, and I want to one more thing about RBI, and then we'll move on. Reviving baseball in the inner cities,
Yes.
and I remember reading Hank Aaron, your guy Hank Aaron, and Mobile, was it Mobile?
Mobile.
He grew up in Mobile,
Yep.
and in the inner city, and you see the pictures of the stickball in the streets
Oh,
of
absolutely.
New York and all that, and it just doesn't happen anymore.
No.
It flat out doesn't
No.
happen. So the initiative, yes, you've got a lot of international players. Yes, you've got a lot of. We talked about it a few weeks ago, the travel ball players that have done the right thing, been coached the right way to get in there, the Bryce Harpers and everything like that. The inner city, they're producing basketball players, not a whole lot, and you look at that, and it was interesting. Just one more plug, and maybe it's who the inner city kids are down in South Florida. You've got a lot of Latin, Cuban, and baseball players, but the RBI World Series champions. The Marlins team has won it. Like I said, they're the recent ones from last year, 2015-14. They hadn't won it since 2004, 1999, and 1997. They've won 5. But I remember, and I got to give a shout out to one of my main guys out there. In 1997, it might have been the very first RBI World Series won by the Marlins and sponsored by Gary Sheffield, who was given $30,000 to RBI for every home run he hit. Okay, and
That's
you
a
get
lot of
about
money.
40 home runs. That's over $1 million he's given to RBI, and he not only was given the money, but he was out there. And I remember at the beginning of 1998 when we had our ring ceremonies where we got our World Series rings from '97. About a week later, Gary brought the RBI team that had won the RBI World Series the previous year out on the field and gave them replica rings, each one a couple $1,000 with diamonds and everything, almost looked identical to the Marlins, a little smaller and everything, but gave one to each kid that was on that program.
Well, I would hope it'd be a little smaller. Otherwise, it'd be a hand ring. It wouldn't be. Because those things are huge.
Yeah, but RBI, great program, scholarships, education, baseball, keeping kids off the street. Teaching.
A lot of players also have their own charities, and sometimes, I'm sure that there's a tax benefit for them doing that. But a lot of players don't set it up. So the ones that do set it up obviously have a reason for doing that. And some of the more famous ones that most people are aware of that have watched it, Albert Pujols, who really does a lot with Down syndrome kids, and is a part of that more so than anybody probably personally that's in Major League Baseball is getting involved in that. So his foundation, the Pujols Family Foundation, deals with Down syndrome. Yep. It's interesting that a lot of the guys who set up these foundations are also people who are men of faith.
In a lot of cases.
In a lot of cases, not everyone, certainly not everyone, but a lot of those guys are like Pujols. I mean, on his foundation, it talks about his faith being one of the key things of the reason why he did it.
I remember I forget how many years ago, 6 or 8 years ago, 60 Minutes did a story about Pujols and his foundation. This is when he was still with the Cardinals.
Yeah.
And the banquet they have at the end of the year for all the kids, and it's like a formal. But and the one thing that struck me was how sincere he came off.
Yeah.
It was really amazing.
Yeah, so, I mean, Kershaw, we talked about him in the first segment, giving up 5 hits for the first time in his career. Clayton Kershaw is another guy, him and his wife, who have donated a great deal of money, and their foundation, which is the Kershaw Challenge, or Striking Out to Serve, is building homes for orphans and kids on the streets in Africa after he and his wife went there. On a mission trip with their church, with another organization, to really kind of see what was going on there with kids who are dealing with HIV and other issues. And so they've really stepped up.
It is amazing, and one of the things away from the player specifically in the team, because I think teams get their players to do a lot. You know, you went through all the different things the Rays are doing. The Marlins, and it was one of the things I was blessed to work with, a woman now retired named Nancy Olson. And the Marlins used to get all kinds of requests. Can you give our league $200? Can you do this for our charity? She set up the Marlins Foundation, and basically it was a step process. And I remember taking baseballs into the clubhouse, and here's a dozen balls, and each guy would sign all 12 of them, and eventually you'd have team balls, and we had that, and then you'd go to one of the players, and here's a dozen just for you. So you'd give those for silent auctions for different things, and instead of giving money, we'll give you things for silent auctions and different things like that. And but then it got into, they started taking charities and different things, and every year, this year, the Marlins Foundation charity partners, 5,000 Role Models of Excellence project, they intervene in the lives of at-risk boys with different people, and the money they raise is going there. After School All-Stars, which is drug-free danger zones in the inner cities, the Miami Children's Museum, and Up to Us Sports. And those are the 4 charities that the Marlins Foundation is doing now. But what was interesting is last year, Big Brothers Big Sisters, Special Olympics, Up to Us Sports again, and the Young at Art Museum. The year before that, Feeding South Florida, Miami Lighthouse for the Blind, Special Olympics, Breakthrough Miami the year. And so they choose 4 or 5 charities that this is, and through that they have golf tournaments.
Everybody does the same things.
Yeah.
Jack McKeon, and they raise money for them. But then the players get involved, and it was interesting. You mentioned Albert Pujols and everything like that. And I actually, if you go to Marlins.com, involvement of players, there's something on almost every player. Here's what Giancarlo does. I found one because he is a local kid. He's an Orlando kid, D. Gordon. And it was interesting, from going out and just talking to RBI kids, teaching math at a school, different, giving money, bringing kids out every Sunday and bringing them out through the clubhouse and everything like that. Different things D. Gordon does.
Yeah, and all players.
The neat thing with D. Gordon is they listed a thing of here's 10 things that D. Gordon did, and it's not like over his
president
career.
of the D. Gordon band? I mean, you're the band.
D. Gordon
is your dude.
D. Gordon's my dude.
I got you.
His brother was a first-round pick last year. He'll be up in the big leagues. Then I'll have 2 Gordons.
You have 2 Gordons being brothers. Bob, what'd you find out about?
Well, there's so many. Gloves for God was a charity that I thought was really cool. They go to the Dominican several times a year. They fix gloves. They give out new gloves, and they're always looking for donations. Kevin Youkilis and Tim Hudson both had charities. Youkilis' charity benefits children, but also fallen, like policemen, firefighters, heroes in the community. And not just him, but he brings in people from all sports guys from all the teams in the New England area. And there were so many that Roberto Clemente has a charity. There were so many that Roberto Clemente's charity started with 1 donation, and I think I read last year they shipped 40 tons of equipment.
Well, and here's a player. I mean, you start going back. Roberto Clemente gave his life.
Yes.
For the community.
For the
charity.
Yeah, it's hard to believe this time has gone. One guy that I would not have thought was Derek Jeter, who is supposedly one of the biggest givers of anybody in Major League Baseball history recently retired in his own foundation. Well, Bob's going to be at a card show May the 7th over in Mandarin,
Yep.
In the Jacksonville area. Go by and see him, 9 p.m. to 3.
9 to 3. Jacksonville Sports Cards, monthly card show, Mandarin Ramada Inn.
Mandarin Ramada Inn. So go and see him. Tell him you want a discount for watching it on 3-Ball Walk.
Amen.
Time's gone. Well, maybe we'll cover this some more. Have a great week. Thanks for playing ball.
Play ball.